Oh.
Oh my gosh! All right, well,
You get that reference?
I did get that reference. Absolutely. Step Brothers. My goodness.
That scene makes me laugh so hard. And I sing it like once a week, and my wife is just like loves it.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah.
My wife hates that movie. Absolutely hates it. The one
Even
thing,
if you hate that movie, that scene, you can't hate that scene.
my wife and I.
Are we rolling, by the way?
We are rolling.
I love
Yeah.
that.
So my wife and I, and then I'll introduce you. But now that we're already rolling in a conversation, might as well keep going with it. My wife and I are hit on 98% of things.
Not movies, or not that.
Not even close on movies.
Ugh.
I love stupid humor. I love the Step Brothers.
Yeah.
My
the
favorite
good old
movie of
days.
all time is like Billy Madison. I was watching it the other day, and she was like, "This is just so stupid."
Happy Gilmore 2 has been
Yes.
greenlit by Netflix.
Greenlit.
Yeah.
You know who the breaking news on that was?
I did. I think I know what you're going to say.
Ken Carman in Cleveland. They did that. But Shooter
Oh,
McGavin,
really?
he
Oh.
said it on their show. That's where like the breaking news
I
came
thought you
from.
were going to say Sydney Sweeney got cast as the cart girl, because that is also true. From
Is
what I
that
hear.
really true?
So,
Interesting.
sign me up.
My goodness. I would like to welcome my friend Dan Whalen. With that, we were just riffing about that's how I know that this is going to be a good interview, right? When we get going.
You know
and
what's
talking about
funny?
Step Brothers.
Yeah, we'll talk shop, we'll talk serious stuff, I guess. But like, I listen to a lot of podcasts. Like,
Yeah.
I have a lot of windshield time in my car, as you will too, as a real estate guy.
Absolutely.
And so it's like you start to get a rhythm, and you just go and you just talk about whatever. Like, Joe Rogan, obviously one of the most famous podcasts in the world, right?
Yeah.
And like a lot of times they'll just go down these wormholes and they'll just
Yeah.
figure it out.
Sometimes
Well,
that's why I don't like listening to Joe Rogan, because he'll have a guy on and they're talking about something just absolutely insane, and that has nothing
UFOs,
to do with
conspiracy theories, things like that.
It's like I don't, because I listened to one that sticks out. I listened to the Dave Portnoy one. He's talking to
Yeah.
Dave Portnoy about like UFC wrestling. I don't want Dave Portnoy's take on UFC wrestling. I want to know the nitty gritty facts of like Barstool and how he started Barstool,
Yeah.
and things like that. But we're gonna get to the nitty gritty with Dan Whalen.
Here we go.
Hey, if you don't know Dan, he was formerly with Harbor Bay Ventures. If you don't know who Harbor Bay Ventures is, they're responsible for the beautiful Intro building right there in Ohio City, alongside with Truss Event Space. I was there the other day. It's beautiful.
Thanks, man.
It's unbelievable.
Pretty sweet.
Also, Etta Coffee. He's showing off the Etta Coffee right now, but that looks like tea.
This is actually okay.
Yes.
Awesome stuff.
Yeah.
And I like to take credit for it.
Sure.
At
We'll
least
give
with,
you credit for it.
This is our lemon cold brew. So basically, what we do is we take cold brew concentrate. We add some just a dash of simple syrup, a little bit of sweetness, lemon juice, and then some sparkling water. Dude.
Interesting.
I mean, because I'm sure. Have you ever been to Italy ever?
Can I get a sip of that?
You can absolutely.
Let me try
Absolutely.
a sip.
We're in the post-COVID era. We're past
We're
it.
post-COVID.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
we're
teasing.
good.
Go to Italy. Sometimes you get a little lemon rind with your espresso.
I don't know if it's for me.
Well, that's fine. More for me.
I mean, it's good. It's good.
Whatever, dude.
Let me do the second sip. I feel like I needed to brace myself on the first. It's so different.
This is funny because, like, you know how a lot of times people will see we're already like going. I love it.
We're already off.
People will try to push you to like things that they like.
The second sip is
Do you,
better.
you ever know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
Like, it doesn't matter what the topic is. Like, oh, you don't like that? Why don't you like? I love this. You should love it.
And that's fine.
But why?
But that's
why?
fine if you don't love it.
Yeah. Why should you?
That's the thing. So with differing opinions,
Yeah.
you can have a different opinion, and people like nowadays just want to get mad at everyone. If you're like, oh, well, you disagree with me, then boo on you. It's like you can completely disagree with someone, their politics, whatever their view on life, their sports teams.
Yeah. I mean, like, you were wearing black and yellow, and
Yeah.
and
Let's go Hawks, baby.
you know, I don't really love it, but
Really?
we can get around it.
From going to Case Western Reserve, do you have something against the Iowa Hawkeyes?
No.
Big rivals?
You know what's funny though? When I was playing high school football on the east side here, right next door, Lake Catholic, Rick Stanzi, who was a quarterback at Iowa.
Absolutely. Love it or leave it.
We were kind of like, not even rivals, but our senior year, we were like competing every week. We'd be like sizing each other up in the stats and who won and who didn't. And he went to Iowa.
Yeah, oh, I know.
And
I'm a big Ricky Stanzi
I think he
guy.
took him to an Orange Bowl, I'm pretty
He
sure.
did. So my brother was a senior when Ricky, I think, was a senior and kind of going through his whole thing. Go Ricky Stanzi. So back to the intro.
Yeah, sorry. Your long outline there. I don't want to.
At a coffee, Pioneer Zsa, lovely space. He is now branching off to do his own venture with Places Development.
Yeah.
My goodness, Places.
Places.
Places. Hey, Life's a big place.
Keep things simple.
Just keep it simple. I love that. But yeah, as you alluded to, Dan was also a quarterback at Willoughby South High School, Case Western Reserve, and your Cleveland Gladiators.
Ooh,
what a
ancient history.
Ancient history, and the Orlando team as well.
Yeah, they were the Predators.
The Predators. I saw it on your LinkedIn. I love that you have the Orlando Predators quarterback on your LinkedIn.
You have to. You got to. You know. Because employers are like, why is there a gap in your?
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
So the good news here is that Dan was a quarterback in high school, but he didn't peak in high school because he's still doing some amazing things right here, starting a new venture. We're talking about intro. What has this whole experience been like for you? We know you from intro, but going off and branching off and doing a new gig. We kind of did it around the same time, literally.
Yeah, a little bit.
And, going off and doing your own thing, especially where you've been at a place that, you helped build, develop, and market, come up with all these concepts. What was it like for you to be able to leave that? And, was it a scary process?
Yeah, still is. Bittersweet, right? So you look at all this stuff, the physical, I think that's why people are drawn to real estate, and you get to see, touch, feel,
sure.
And say look, there's a product, there's an outcome from something I've created. So there's that, but I think people also underestimate all the relationships and all the nurturing and the development of people, and that's something I really love to do.
Yeah.
We have a team of over 200 now there with all the restaurants that you listed in the event space, and Harbor Bay Ventures with our real estate team, and we have all sorts of people there that I really love, and sad to kind of part ways with. But the cool thing is I'm not leaving.
Yeah.
Right. I ain't leaving.
Not having leaving.
So I'm here. I'm hanging out in this coffee shop every day. It's for those of you who don't know, it's at the corner of Lorraine and 25th, right by the market.
Yeah.
And it's an outstanding place to have just offsite meetings and pop in, sit down for an hour or two. So I kind of been posting up shop there for a little bit. So I see all my squad. But it's been awesome. It's been anxious. It's been nerve-wracking, but also really, really exciting.
Sure.
Because it was always kind of part of my path. It's what I wanted to do. It's where my ambitions are. And sort of to create has always been in my bones.
Yeah.
And this is just kind of one step further from that, and now it's time to go, and it's there's no paycheck coming in anymore, and it's time to put food on the table. So
that's right, baby.
But also it's time to do really cool stuff that I'm sure we'll chat about.
Sure, yeah. I'm looking forward to getting into a little bit of your venture, but I do want to, you brought up a good point, and that's the thing with real estate. Being a kid from Willoughby, what is it like to be able to drive down Ohio City or in Ohio City and see that beautiful intro building and having a piece of Cleveland real estate that hopefully is going to be there forever, but at least for a number of decades.
Dude, no, it's still unreal, right?
Yeah.
But again, that's kind of why I was always drawn to it. Even going back to being a kid, right? Now my trajectory in my career path started out, being an English major with intent on being a journalist, right?
Yeah.
And actually, I went to Case, studied English. I did internships in New York City with Sports Illustrated, so I was on the path to being in the newsroom.
Good thing you didn't continue your path down with Sports Illustrated,
right? Well, it's funny that my internship was 2008.
Yeah,
and then I left in the first week of September. The next week, the world went to hell.
Unreal.
And you had all that stuff start to happen, and they laid off Time Inc., who owned a ton of magazines, including SI, laid off a ton of people. But anyway, I digress. So, part of it is going back to my childhood. My favorite stuff was Legos and Lincoln Logs and Connects, and I was like, man, I'm always building stuff, and I always liked to. And who knows if that played a role or that was just kind of subconsciously always there. But I've always wanted to express the creative side, and my way to do that now is through building and envisioning, things come to life and be places where people can, live, thrive, work, hang out, and the key word is live. And I don't mean sleep and shower. I'm talking live their lives in a meaningful, excitable way. And so that's really at the core and the crux of what I want to do and the things I want to build.
Sure. So, we're already talking about it. Let's talk about what you guys are doing. So if you have the plot of land, which is the parking lot right next to Great Lakes. You can give me the actual address, I'm sure.
Yeah, the address is 1950 Lorraine. It's a parking lot right now, Surface Park, right next to Great Lakes Brewing, right at the end of Market Avenue, just a kind of a stone's throw, a couple hundred feet away from Intro. Working with partnership there with Ohio City Incorporated, and the game plan is to really try to bring a really special boutique hotel, lifestyle neighborhood hotel, to what I think is and continues to be Cleveland's most exciting, dynamic intersection location neighborhood, right?
Absolutely. I mean, Ohio City is one of those like little neighborhoods that it's been the hot thing ever since I've moved here. It's been the hot thing for probably 10 years. Yeah. And typically it's like, okay, things start to maybe die down a little bit. It's only gotten better.
It is. And there's still so much opportunity and there's still so much going on. And like, friends of ours have helped push that and lead that. And you see like after our project kind of delivered, which is 2 years ago already, which is crazy, time's flying. But, now there's 1, 2, 3 other apartment buildings that have completed like within a couple hundred feet of that project. So you're starting to see density, and we need density. We need more people to, create that energy and that buzz that great cities have. And so, Ohio City's still chock full of surface parking lots, and if you, ask around to a random neighbor, they'll still tell you they need more. But Irishtown Bend Park, you can just see it picking up by the day, the process and the progress that they're making. And once that eventually finishes up here in the next couple of years, like all bets are off. Like people are like attracted to green space, like bugs are attracted to like, a zapper, right?
And water too.
That's right.
You got both of those.
That's right.
With the Irishtown Bend.
And it's right there. And we, Clevelanders, one thing I wish we did more of was just walking. Like when I lived in Chicago, which was 7 or 8 years of my life, I would walk everywhere. I'd walk 50 blocks. I'd walk 3-4 miles to get to a place just because like there's so much going on around you that it's enjoyable to see and be a part of and take a stroll. Here, you don't do that. People want a parking spot right out front, and then, they're going to get in their car, they're going to drive half mile down the road, park again, and go. Like, trying to break that a little bit. I think Ohio City, Tremont, Gordon Square are like the near west side is sort of the linchpin and the kind of focal point for that type of lifestyle. It's why people are excited to be there. It's why people are moving in. And although Cleveland's population as a whole hasn't really grown yet, those pockets in downtown, they have exponentially grown over the last decade plus.
Yeah, and has become, there's more of a culture down there too, of doing the intros, the trio with Church and State, all of these great places where, again, and they're not just, apartment buildings where people come and lay their head. It's where, life happens with.
There's activity, right?
There's a lot of activity there. But, you brought up an interesting point that, I was thinking about, when my brothers lived in Chicago, they were like, all right, I was like, all right, where are we going? They're like, oh, we're walking. I'm like, okay, how far? And they were like, oh, it's about 3/4 of a mile. I'm like, 3/4 of a mile? Like, what are we doing? That's
a whole 12 minutes.
Yeah. And how can we make Cleveland more walkable? Because right now, and I'm sure as places are going to fit in, where I live in Tremont, it's probably a mile from intro, maybe a mile and some change, but there's no way I'm gonna walk that.
Yeah, right.
I would much rather either scooter or drive.
Yeah, I mean, like some of those other, like riding a bike, scooting, those are cool. And I mean, like cars are a necessary piece of life too. It's
not
just
rollerblades for my wife.
No,
she just fell on rollerblades and broke her arm. Yeah.
My wife has done that. Yeah, and there's some photos from
she
when
break her arm.
She didn't break her arm, but she was actually going down to Edgewater Park and forgot that they had a break on the back of the heel there, and
was it like the scene in Big Daddy?
Holy cow, dude!
Throw a stick at her?
It was bad. Like it was before I met her too, so this is like years ago, right? But the photos are like, I was like, you look like you were in a massive amount of pain, just like scrapes all down her legs and her hands and her elbows. I was like, my wife is not the most coordinated.
Yeah.
Super awesome athlete, as long as it doesn't involve like a ball.
Sure.
Or like.
Or anything with athletics.
Running, so she can run, jump,
all right.
lift weights. Like she can hold her own on those fronts. But if it involves like catching,
hand-eye
throwing,
coordination is
oh
what
my
she
gosh,
lacks.
it's like it's trouble.
So going back to sports, I think a lot of people, when you were an athlete from the time that you were a little kid. I think you started playing football when you were 13
Who
or so.
knows? No, like well, I mean, actually growing up, baseball was my sport. I was on 3 teams per summer. Come from humble place. Like my parents, got divorced when I was really young.
Yeah.
But still had to figure out how they were going to afford to pay for me to play on a travel baseball team, and if I could afford to get a new baseball glove, and we're talking about like
Did you realize this at the time?
No clue. Yeah. And this is a good segue, just because I don't think you have that perspective until you get like into your 20s even. Like I don't even think in high school I knew, because now we'll take for granted, we'll go out and we'll spend $100 on a dinner, right?
Sure.
Like with friends. my parents had to consider the whole season if they could afford a $100 baseball mitt that was going to last me 5 years, right?
Yeah.
And so you really kind of have to look at things that way and really appreciate it to get it and to know that they were putting me first and my brother first and those sorts of things. But, that is a key component to remaining humble and understanding, what I want to do now and how I want to do it and how I eventually want my kids to be. But as far as sports are concerned, they are like at the center of really everything that I've ever accomplished. And I think it's been through building the mentality, it's taking leadership roles, it's working in a team. It's all of these sorts of things that, people are always like, oh, would you let your kid play football? I was like, hell yeah, I would. In fact, I would not just let them. I'm going to encourage them because, the things football gave me, not just like the camaraderie and the accomplishments and the awards and those sorts of things, but like, the ability to deal with tough situations and push through and really be strategic in moments that require ultimate focus. Like that's stuff that you can't replicate and you can't really do in practice without being in, a really high stress, high pressure situation that like has real stakes.
Sure. And it also, it shapes that responsibility from an early age of showing up even, transferable skills to being an adult.
Discipline, right?
Absolutely. And having discipline. But there is something different with an athletic mindset that you get only from playing sports. And granted, like I played high school baseball. Like I wasn't like
you are pretty disciplined though with like your hair products and the way that you style every single morning.
Absolutely. Yeah. But that was not ingrained for me from sports. That was from my mother being like, you cannot go outside looking like a schlub. So from the age of 5, she was
what's funny?
my hair
When we talk about movie quotes and those sorts of things, the first thing I think about is Big Daddy and like Frankenstein. Like you just wear whatever you want. No one gets like just wear wherever you want.
My mother was the exact opposite of that. Yeah, but going back to kind of your family dynamic. First off, your mom is one of my favorite people in the world. She's incredible.
Yours too?
Yes,
awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't realize that it was your mom who was commenting on every one of my Facebook posts, but then I kind of put 2 and 2 together, and Vicky is probably my number one supporter on. She's just keeping me alive going on Facebook.
Dude, she's everyone's like she's everywhere. I was like. Almost like, Mom, you got to tone down your activity. Like, but she loves it. She loves being in the mix. She loves supporting me, my friends, friends. Everything that's happening and going on. I think it's exciting for her to see, and obviously she's super, super proud.
You can tell that she's super proud because every time I go to edit, she's there.
Oh yeah. And and she on Resi or was our reservation platform. Yeah. I think she's by a zillion like our most like. Has the most reservations all time at Pioneer and Shotgun. It's like in the 300s. And like we've only been open for 2 years. So it's like, okay, well.
So coming from, that humble background with an incredible mother, how did that shape your now work ethic to now be doing something that a lot of people wouldn't even fathom, let alone dive right into these ventures of, of the real estate, and then now also going into doing your own development company? Like how did that shape your now mindset?
It's interesting. I don't know where that like switch or that like gene came from per se. I've always had it. I've always kind of been locked in on whatever I'm doing, and when I want to go for something, I just go and I kind of put the blinders on.
Sure.
It doesn't mean with like reckless abandon and run over everything in my way. It just means just ultra focused and being appreciative of how I got here. And I think that's key. That kind of is the part that, again, looking back at some of those things from my childhood and from my adolescence, is just like understanding and appreciating. But in terms of that, like that go for it mentality, I'm not sure. I don't know really where that came from. I'm lucky. I'm glad I have it. I wouldn't change it. And I think some point in sometimes there's a few things I can go back to where there's like either been missed opportunity or something I didn't jump at or didn't take the risk on, if you will. And I regret that. And like looking at the other side of the coin.
What are some of those things that you look back on and it still kind of haunts you? You're like, I didn't do it because I was either scared about doing it or just didn't have.
You know what it was? There's a singular moment. So it was relative to my football career. As you know, I had a really great amount of success at Case Western. We had our team at its peak was ranked number 5 in the country in Division II. Coming from a time when people would ask, like, Case is a football team? And so, like, to see that transpire, that led to a lot of personal success and also interest, right? And so I had been invited to the pro day at Ohio State, which my spring semester of senior year, I basically had negotiated with all my professors to, let me take tests remotely so that I could just lock in and focus and train 6 days a week, like 4 or 5 hours a day. And got invited to this pro day. I had my agent there. Coach Deblak was there. My quarterback coach, Coach DeCarlo, was there, and we were psyched, right? And all that work and the preparation had led up to that moment. In the morning session, you do all of your like lifting, running, sort of combine type stuff, right? And they strip you down to your underwear. They take your measurements, right? And they look at you. Okay,
That's a great visual for
everyone, right? You like that?
My goodness, hello.
Maybe 15 years ago. But in that, I crushed the morning. Like I exceeded all of the goals I had set out in terms of the way I was testing. And then I get up and they do the measurement. I get against the wall, and you're barefoot. And he goes, I remember this like yesterday. The scout from the Carolina Panthers, don't remember his name, but he's running the workout. He's kind of leading the whole thing. And he yells out, 5'11 and 7/8. And I turned to him, and I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I was like, in this world, as a quarterback, like to have a 5 in front and not a 6'0", I was like, that's brutal, right? And so
you missed it by
1/8 of an inch.
Oh, that sucks.
Right? And then I was like,
just put 5'12".
Oh my God, you're right. Just put 5'12". So there's that, right? And okay, I was like, so I was already kind of feeling pissed off, but
that already is out of your hands.
Yeah, that's not the opportunity that I missed. That's just like leading up to the rest of the afternoon.
Sure.
But
that get in your head?
No, but it's still in my head.
Yeah, it's clearly still in your head.
Well, it's funny now because if you were to, again, go get a tape measure, I'll stand against the wall. I'm like a shy of 6'1" now, so I don't know what happened, but in that, I see that condescending.
See, here's the thing. You got to do a little bit more strategy.
That's right.
You got to do the hair.
At the time, I had shaved my head. I had
see, dude, that's really what happened.
It is.
Yeah.
So, but in the afternoon session, that's where I really wanted to shine. That was the time we're going to go out and we're going to throw to all the receivers. You had a lineup of guys who all went to Ohio State, and so many of whom are household names. And it was me, it was Terrell Pryor, and it was a guy named Billy Cundiff, not the kicker, but a quarterback from Ashland University.
Okay.
And Scout comes over, he's like, hey, we're not going to have you throw this afternoon.
Yikes.
And I was like,
to all three of you or just you?
Just to me.
Oh.
I was like, well, dude, I'm a quarterback, right? Like, and as well as I did in the morning session, it was all about, for me, I will say this till I'm blue in the face, and I believe it, segueing from the humility side, I can throw a football with anybody on the planet.
Sure.
And I just was given a gift to spin it, right? And they weren't going to let me throw. And I just kind of said, okay.
Yeah,
I just sat down in the corner and was like, all right, well, now what?
Yeah.
And every scout from every team was there because it's Ohio State, right? It's not like they're going to show up at I don't know, Ball State in the middle, right? They're going to Ohio State. Every team is there. GMs are there. There's a couple owners there. So they're there to see the studs that played, at the highest level.
Yeah.
And so that was my opportunity. And in the moment, instead of me being like, absolute, like just kind of, you have this like flashback, right? You go, I worked every day for 6 months, 5 in the morning till noon every day. I skipped classes. I was eating stupid like grilled chicken and rice every meal of every day, right?
Yeah.
Just trying to be in the best shape I could possibly be in. And for that moment, and then the moment is like kind of stripped from you. And yeah, I mean, if I go back to one thing, and look, my career has worked out, and as we talked about, it's totally in a different place. And but to see where that could have gone, that is a point in time where I'd have been like, no, you're gonna have to haul me out of here in handcuffs, right? Like Scotty Scheffler style.
Yeah. Too soon?
Too soon? Yeah, we're about an hour there, and 2 weeks from now when this airs, people are like, oh, whatever, ancient history. But no, it's just like you would have to pry that from my hands for me, like knowing who I am now and where I've gone. It's just like, man, like I should have stepped up and said, no, I'm here for this, and you're gonna need to see me throw.
Sure, but there's, I'm sure that you were just kind of blindsided in that moment of being like, okay.
Pretty much exactly that. And you're a 21, 22-year-old kid.
Yeah.
and there's every NFL team here. Like this is the precipice, right?
Yeah. Ohio State Pro Day is huge.
Yeah. It was heartbreaking, honestly. So then what you have to do is like, okay, now my agent's like trying to set up individual workouts with teams who were impressed by my, bench press reps or my 40 time. Sure. And it's like, yeah, that stuff's great. But at the end of the day, dude, you're either a gamer or you're not. And there's so many guys, as you know, and have seen over the years that like can test out of their minds and can't play a lick of football.
Absolutely.
And so it was really like, then it was an uphill battle and trying to get those workouts and those teams. And, had a sniff with the Browns, with the Steelers, a couple workouts, like favors to me and my agent. And then, like you said, played a couple years of arena football, which is, I think the league's bankrupt for like the 4th time now. It's just not the same, right? Yeah. And it's not the same level of coaching. There's no camaraderie in the team. It's like has-beens and wannabes is kind of the way I describe it. And that's not to talk derogatorily about it, but it's just like that's generally the makeup of your team. Sure. Is guys who were either in the NFL for a year and are trying to get back, or have never been, and like they're just clawing and fighting, and wasn't for me.
When did you know it was time to turn the page and be like, okay, I'm done with football. I need to get a big boy job now. And, you see it with the legends of pro athletes.
Oh yeah,
that's their identity. It's who they are. It's who they are since they've been a little kid, and especially now. So many people struggle just to even leave the game. How many people have Tom Brady, Brett Favre is the famous one, and but also struggle to find an identity outside of that. Not a lot of people do that.
No, 100%. And like, for those guys, if you think about it, this is a whole lifetime, right?
Yeah.
Like, and they've played 15, 18 years after the time when I stopped, but like it's 25 years before that. That's what they were doing, right? And so it's your identity. Like I was the Case Western Reserve quarterback and the guy who did this and the newspaper clippings, and like that's who I was. Every conversation you walk into, it starts with football and it probably ends with football, right? And like so after a while, it's like, okay, you almost get, I don't want to say brainwashed, but you definitely get like, this is who I am, this is what I am. And so stepping away, I had countless opportunities to come into coaching and be asked to join a team in some fashion, and I was like, I almost had to separate myself from the game, or otherwise I'm going to want to try to jump back in and try to play and try to be this guy who, 30 years old chasing it, and that was not what I wanted to do. And so it's funny, I've spent a lot of my life on airplanes over the past 15, 18 years because of what I do and where, with sports and with real estate. And so a lot of these moments for me, like these pivotal kind of decision-making moments, have happened, ironically, just while I'm on a flight somewhere. Yeah. And so I was playing in Orlando. We were 0-6. I was the backup quarterback, hadn't gotten a chance to play, and I was like, okay. And so what do? They cut the starting quarterback from the team.
Oh my gosh!
I was like, oh hell yeah, right? Yeah. I was like, all right, I'm ready.
Danny
I'm
Dub's
ready.
turn.
And we had a long weekend, and like I think we played a game on a Thursday. We had off till Sunday. I remember it. And here I am, like, all right, I'm the guy. I'm gonna get my crack, and we're gonna go from 0-6 to where They called me on Sunday like, we're actually cutting you too. I'm like, what?
What you too?
I'm like, what? Okay, all right. What?
I'm sorry.
So flying back, and it's like the first week in May, right around right around this time, 2011.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, what do I do? I don't want to do this again. I don't want to. I would actually, when they called me to sign me in Orlando, I was sitting on a patio at Panini's having a beer. Like that's what I was doing. Right?
Sure.
And so
sounds pretty relaxing.
I mean, pretty cool. Yeah. And I was like, what do I do? And I actually had this like sort of existential moment for me personally, because it was like, again, your identity, right? You're like, what do I do? Like I'm trying, it's not working. It's not on my terms either, which it's always been on my terms. I've always the best player on every team that I played on. Yeah. So it's like, how is that? How do I reconcile that? Not being that anymore, and also like them not seeing it or not wanting the opportunity or giving me the opportunity. So I'm on the flight back, and I'm like, all right, I can either go back to school, and I had some relationships at Case Western, obviously, to consider going back and get my business degree.
Sure.
Or I thought about going to the Navy and trying to do SEAL school.
Really?
Right? And just like I've just always been like hardcore like that, like just one or the other, right? I'm like, there's whatever I'm doing, I'm going all in, right? And I was sitting like some breakfast counter in Willoughby having a cup of coffee and like eating by myself, and my buddy's dad came. I was like, you'd be stupid if you didn't try the business school side of things. He's like, you got this opportunity, you got the brains, whatever. And so it kind of, for me, I looked at the schedule and I had 4 days to take the GMAT, to get letters of recommendation, do all this stuff to get the application deadline.
4 days.
4 days. And a lot of people study for the GMAT for like 2 months, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm never going to be able to do this. Called in a favor. I got a very special letter of recommendation, no names. And then studied 2 nights at the Willoughby Library, like just nonstop for the GMAT, took the GMAT, got a good score, and got in, and it was off and running. And so at the same time, a couple months later, start the semester, these guys were building a hotel right on campus, Courtyard Marriott, right by the Sideman Cancer Center. I walked in kind of through the gate, asked if the boss was there. He was. We sat down at Starbucks, and I asked him for a job.
Wow.
No experience, no nothing, just a lot of hustle, and obviously he's like, "Oh, you're the football player guy."
What brought you? What led you to that? Why did you just were interested by the Bills?
It's funny, I guess. Not that necessarily. It was just proximity more than anything.
I mean, what brought you to what was it about that property that you were like, I wanted?
It wasn't so much about the property itself. It was a block from campus.
Yeah. Okay.
And so it was right front and center in front of my face. And at that point, I had decided it was going to be real estate, and I didn't know what that meant at the time. I was like, development. I wanted to build stuff. Didn't necessarily want to do construction specifically, but I had to learn a little bit of that. So walked down to the job site again. Talk about seizing opportunities. Like broke in through the fence.
Yeah.
And just was like,
were they like, sir, who are you?
You don't have a hard hat. And honestly, now there's been like 4 or 5 of those type of things where you just like, if the door's cracked, like metaphorically, you got to kick it in, right? And so they gave me a job. They're like, actually, it's perfect timing. Like, we need a guy in development who just can block and tackle and assist with things. And it was Snavely Group, so Pete Snavely, senior and junior, worked for them for 2 years, full time through school. Went to school full time, and then that was when I jettisoned off to Chicago.
Interesting.
Yeah,
you literally just broke the door down because you just didn't take no for an answer. That's unbelievable.
That was, again, you talk about those moments where you missed an opportunity or like didn't or speak up, like the whole football thing, the combine, and
it is also too
that again.
Of like that the universe will put you in the position of where it wants you to be, and that's, some people could say that's a luck thing. I call it a fate thing of like, you were drawn to that project for some reason.
Well, and at some point, remember those books like the Choose Your Own Adventure? You get to the bottom of the page and you can say, okay, for this you can go to page 60, or this you can go to page 80, right?
Yeah.
So like you're saying, it'll put you in a place or in a spot. You still got to take action and make a decision and pick a route, and that's what's going to define where you go.
Sure. And I think, so I was reading an interview with you, and you brought up a quote that I thought was really interesting, and now I'm trying to find the quote, but you basically talked about how working up the ladder just to work up the ladder is just a stupid process, and it's a time-wasting process, or the fact that like putting in your dues is, and I think it's really, it's not a crazy concept, but there's so many, and I think COVID a little bit did this to just business in general, and of knocking down unnecessary doors. Even like for me, it's like I used to have to be in the studio at 2:30. I had to stay here until 10:30 a.m. and then that was it. So after COVID, we were like, oh, I can work from home, and so then after that, it was basically just looking at unnecessary things, and even to the I've heard you have to earn your dues in the media business. I started in Rockford, Illinois, basically paying them to employ me. So talk a little bit more about that and how you have kind of implemented that for yourself, but also for people that work for you.
Yeah, well, it's a belief I have. Not everybody's ladder is the same, and not everybody's rungs are the same distance apart,
or their speed.
Or speed, exactly.
Yeah.
And for some people, you're zipping, and other people, it's a slow climb. So I think it's about aptitude. It's about work ethic. There's no substitute for those things. And if you don't have the aptitude, you got to put in the work to learn and to gain it, right? And then for others who kind of have the skill, then it's just hustle and grit. And a lot of times, you can take the express lane by other people who don't have that hustle and grit the way you do, especially when you marry that with whatever God-given skill or what have you. And so I think that's really what I was getting at, is like, and I think not just COVID, but our generation and kind of those behind us now, like they're just not taking the old school mentality and saying, okay, like, no, they're kind of shaking it up a bit.
It was the old school mentality. If you hit this number of years, then you become this, and then this, and it's like, well, I'm not going to ask for a raise because I get a raise in 5 years. It's
exactly,
like,
or like, hey, you got to be at your desk at 8, and you know, you got to stay till 5. It's like, nah, like I can get done from 8 to noon what other people might get done from 8 to 5.
Yeah,
and then I can spend time working on other stuff, or you know, a lot of the best use of my time, especially now that I'm into things, is going and connecting with people who either I can assist them with something, or they can help, you know, fill the little gaps I have on the course of projects, right? And when you talk about development specifically, like big projects take a long time. Small projects take a long time. You know, these are years-long things, and you know, no one does it alone. Even though, you know, I'm starting my own business, there's numerous people who will play a role in seeing that, you know, little things get to the next step in the process, or that they succeed, or that they get done at all. And so I think to the quote you're referring to that I had in one of those interviews was just like, you can forge your own path is really what I mean. And if you don't like the path you're on, or someone's kind of hamstringing it because of a belief that it has to be a pay your dues and wait your turn type thing, no, I just don't buy it. I don't believe it. That's not to say that you need technical skills in a lot of fronts to be good at stuff and to really understand it. And you can't just go, no, I know what I'm doing, and then you go in and you don't.
Yeah, absolutely.
And no, that's different than just paying your dues for the sake of like putting in, you know, FaceTime.
Yeah. There's some old man yelling at cloud.
Yeah, he's like,
you have to pay your dues.
I just need to see you.
Yes.
Like, well, that's different than achieving stuff and coming up with solutions and ideas that are high value.
Sure.
So.
You know, and you know, let's get back to what you were talking about the new venture. I'm excited about it. You know, so Ohio City needs a hotel. I think it's from downtown to outside of Lakewood that there's not a hotel,
it's like
right?
Right till you get almost to the airport, there's a couple hotels right on like 130th, 150th. You know, and those are like just literally places to rest your head before you go catch a flight. They're not, you know, the hotel that you and I would be thinking about in the urban core.
Sure. And you aren't just being like, oh, I'm going to be a Marriott franchise. You are wanting to put your thumb.
Don't knock it.
I'm not knocking anything. But, you know, you're going potentially the harder route, but the more satisfying route of doing this boutique hotel, doing it your way. I think a lot of people who maybe don't know you would be surprised to know how much how involved and how much passion you have for the design aspect of it. You know, when we were talking, you were like, yeah, I decided to go with this hotel group because they let me have the vision to do what I wanted to do. Yeah, right. So talk a little bit more about that vision and what you hope to see for this new project.
So with really being focused on this and a few other, you know, things scattered both around town and otherwise, and getting this new venture off the ground, I want to be hands-on in everything because it has to be successful. Like there's no room for error, because if you don't get out of the blocks strong, then you're gonna have a hard time selling investors, getting new stuff going after the fact. So for me, it's like extreme focus on the details so that I can ensure that it is a successful investment, and that not only is it producing the outcome that I want for investors, but you know, the outcome for the neighborhood and for the community and for the folks that interact with it. Because at the end of the day, you know, like you said at the beginning here, when I step back and I'm standing on the sidewalk and I'm watching people interact at the coffee shop or at the building or, you know, at the pool, whatever, it's like, hell yeah. Like that's the moment, right? That's the proud dad moment, right? Yeah. And so, yes, for me, this, not just for this project, but for the company as a whole, you know, it's about creating these special places, right? And places that can't be replicated and that are authentic to the neighborhoods and the locations where they fit in, and not feeling like this albatross or like something that's like totally contrived. It has to harness the strengths of what's already there while also adding to it and maybe giving people a new perspective about, wow, I could have never imagined this, right? Like, go back 5 years, no one could have ever imagined Intro being there where the old strip center was with surface parking. Yeah. But now it's like 24/7. It's churning. There's people. They're always there.
It's crazy to think when I moved here, it was like, I remember, you know, going to, it's Avo now, whatever that taco place was. I remember Bakersfield. Yeah. I remember A horrible name for a taco place, by the way.
I never got it, but
Yeah, that's
to each their own.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Anyways, so I remember going there and looking across at that and be like, that is such a waste of real estate. There was like a dumpy CVS or something there.
There was a couple things that didn't belong anymore, and they were just kind of.
And it's crazy to think back at that world. That that was there, but that's the imprint that you can make with places. Yeah. So what is the ultimate? You're doing this one project, the boutique hotel right there in Ohio City. But I mean, what's your ultimate goal? When you're looking back 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, where do you want to look back and be like, yeah, I think I've accomplished what I wanted to accomplish?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's kind of marrying the things I was alluding to. Like for you to build a company, it has to be sustainable business enterprise, right? Like has to. Like there's just no way around it because like things that it's not a nonprofit and it's also not you can't lose money and expect to keep going forward. So that's just a necessary piece of things to attract investment and to make stuff that's cool and that stands the test of time. It also has to produce, right? Yeah. And on the other side, for it to stand the test of time, it has to be different. It has to be it has to feel great and comfortable and exciting. And it can't be trendy. I mean, like there was a point in time over the past 5 or 6 years where, and I think even we were guilty of it at certain instances, like trying to fit into a trend.
Sure.
Really, where I'm going to now is trying to do stuff that isn't on trend or off trend.
That withstands the test of time.
And it's it's steady, and then it just takes simple tweaks or adjustments as time goes on and as tastes change and as you get into the next generation of residents or folks coming into contact with whatever it is you're building. So, but generally speaking, I have a passion for hospitality. I've always worked in restaurants and bars long ago. Obviously created the Harbor Bay hospitality side of things with those restaurants in the event space. And, hotels, I've just always been a sucker for a great hotel. Like when I'm traveling, Airbnbs are cool and it's like whatever, but when you walk up to a really awesome hotel and you get treated, like gold. Yeah. That's a cool, special feeling, and you don't get to feel that very often unless you're in those moments. So for me, I'm gravitating to some of that, and I think I want to create some of that. Yeah. And then I want to build places for people to live on underutilized properties, and try to do what I've done so far and leverage that a little bit more to again create and add to the dynamics of really great neighborhoods. And I think there's a lot of opportunities still in Cleveland, like a ton, right? Yeah. People are always like, "Hey, do we build too many apartments, or it's like we got one crane in the air?" Like, you know what I mean? Like,
that's so true.
And if you go like again, maybe it's been a tough road the last 18 months for development, just like capital markets, interest rates. But like, if you go to other cities, it's 10, 15 cranes. Like Chicago will have 50, Toronto has like 80 at any given point in time. And I just think there's this mentality here that's still a little bit old guard of like, well, the river caught fire and like, and there's all this people fleeing out to the burbs and even leaving Cleveland entirely. It's like, well, hang on, like we've got an opportunity to recreate ourselves. We got new energy. I'm looking at this poster on the wall and like I see the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Something I think now I'm going down a rabbit hole. So to bear with me for a minute, but
buckle up.
Yeah, this is my pulpit. I think Cleveland has such an opportunity to reinvent its image, and I think it starts with the built environment. Mm-hmm. And you see, the mayors pushing for the 15-minute city, and really starting to utilize the lakefront and the riverfront, and this Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. While it's an amazing asset, and it's like anytime there's a national broadcast of any sporting event, it's like that's the only thing they ever focus on. It's like, okay, you would think that Cleveland just was like a quarter mile of
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But and every logo has a guitar in it.
Yeah, or a pick. It's like, okay, well, great, an identity, but like, is it our identity? Like, we could leverage that so much farther. We could build music culture the way that like a Nashville or Austin has, and some of that's been organic. But like you have this Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's been here now, 30-ish years. They're going through $100+ million expansion. How about trying to like push that and create a real music culture here? And I'm talking not say that there isn't good music. Yeah. It's that what about music production, music recording, all of these sorts of things that you could create industry around. And over time, that's what's drawn people to those other places I was just mentioning is they can go and they can try to make it. And and like there's resources and there's connections. And like I don't want to say that doesn't happen here, but it doesn't happen nearly on the scale that it could have or should have if there were a really again, I'm talking about an identity, like
Yeah.
a theme of kind of where our conversation started. Cleveland has to create a new identity to attract people and growth, which is eventually what any city needs to thrive. You need more people.
What's holding us back from doing that then?
I think there's been a lack of unity on all fronts for a long time, and a little bit of, I think, egos get in the way. I think on the political side,
Red tape.
Red tape. Lots of hurdles, challenges with city and county and state not really jiving and being on the same page, and some of that. And I also, I'd love to see the development community be a little bit more collaborative. In Chicago, you could call up any developer and they'll give you information, they'll collaborate with you, they'll share rents, and they'll talk about sales, and they'll like, hey, I worked with this. And here, I mean, there's some of it, but like there's a lot of also like close to the best stuff. And I think we got to take a big picture look at stuff, but we also, Cleveland has a habit and a history of going after superlatives, right? Like, we're going to build the biggest, the baddest, the blah, blah, blah.
The biggest balloon launch.
Right? And it's like, well, wait a minute. Those are great, but like a lot of times those are pipe dreams, and then they end up as renderings that never happen, right? What about starting with stuff that's just like tackleable,
tangible,
right? Tangible, and like, hey, not every project needs to be a $500 million master plan that's going to take 20 years, and God bless that. Like, we need that too, but we got to fold in small wins, and you got to stack them up, right? You got to hit a lot of singles and doubles, and then you got to really start to feel the momentum shifting and the energy changing, and you have to visually see, wow, this is a different place than it was a few years ago, and then I think we have some really great entities and some groups and some people who their focus is on driving attention to Cleveland and do a great job. I just think there's got to be more unity of it between them.
What would happen to downtown and kind of the momentum that we're seeing right now if the Browns pull out and go to Brook Park?
Good question. I'm going to kind of cop out on this.
Sure. Because you're a wimp.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I think we overplay to a degree the impact of sports teams, and actually not all sports. Like, you look at the Cavs; they play 40 home games a year, 41, whatever. The Guardians play double that, 81. Yeah. So, bringing that traffic all the time, that's different than 8 games a year. Yeah. It's like, yes, are Sundays downtown electric?
Yeah.
Yes, especially lately as we've been more competitive than we were for a long time. But, does that make or break an economy? No. Yeah. And it's true. Like, yes, and that same thing, like, how many other events are you going to pack a 70,000 seat stadium? Maybe 4 or 5. Like, I think we got WrestleMania or something coming this year.
Sure, which is going to be sweet.
It is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, all right, quick hitter, right? I got a couple quick questions.
Please.
Who, as a kid, you watch wrestling?
Sting.
Ooh, okay. I went to Sting for when I was 8 years old for Halloween.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But I was an Ultimate Warrior guy. I was a $1 Million Man kind of guy.
I had the pleasure of meeting Ric Flair last year.
Oh, really?
And interviewing Ric Flair. It was awesome.
I remember that. I
had to do a woo with him.
Woo!
He's the man.
The limousine riding. But back. So would I like to see them stay here in downtown? Absolutely. Do I think there's going to be this massive economic shift either way? No.
Yeah.
In fact, if there's not a stadium on the lakefront, now you just gained 50 acres of land where you could really start to consider new opportunities for, other than surface parking and 10 days a year where you're bringing activity there, which is, again, part of the. I don't think you need a stadium to build around it, right? Yeah. I'm not lobbying for it to move. I'm just saying it's not. And then again, there's all kinds of
It opens a world up of a whole new interesting opportunities.
Yeah.
Either way.
Look at other cities, right? Are we? I don't know. I'm trying to think of a city off the top of my head that doesn't hinge their entire well-being around their sports teams, and it's
Nashville.
Most city, right? Because they have that culture, that industry, that attraction. But most cities don't require their sports team to be the thing that drives their economy or even their psychology, which I think is the bigger issue.
Yeah.
Right. You talk about identity. We have to be able to. If you were to snap your fingers and someone who's never been here is like, what is Cleveland all about? You would jump right to sports.
Yeah.
You would. And then beyond that, there's so much other stuff here, like world-class arts and culture.
Oh, it's
it's like almost unmatched, right? How do we leverage that? Well, we got an amazing top 5 symphony orchestra.
Yeah.
Okay. Music culture, rock and roll. Rock and roll doesn't have to just be this pigeonhole of like, oh, it's Led Zeppelin and Prince. It's like no, it's music, right?
Yeah.
And I think we've got to get better at harnessing other things beyond sports and doing a bit to disassociate our fandom from our ability to move forward as a city.
Sure.
Right?
No, I think that's super important.
And you don't. They're not mutually exclusive. Like,
Yeah.
you can do both.
Absolutely.
We need to do both.
And everything doesn't need to be in this whole web of things. It is.
We got 5 minutes. Let's
It's
do
5
it.
minutes. Okay. I knew that I want to get you to your meeting on time. I just have.
I'm an entrepreneur now.
Let's go, baby. You work for yourself, so you're your own boss. I really just have one question that I really wanted to ask you was, we're talking about Ohio City, the come up of Ohio City, and it's been 20 years in the making. Our buddy Sam McNulty bought a building there.
Speak for yourself.
I will speak for myself, but I also speak for him.
Love Sam.
I mean, he bought a building there 25 years ago for like a cup of coffee. Now that real estate has just gone through the roof. What's the next Ohio City? What neighborhood do you see being that next Ohio City where, is kind of, is the come up city that could be the hot thing?
Well, it's funny, right? Like I know that we've had population loss over the last 60 years. I think it's troughing. I think we're turning the corner. I think we're going to start to grow a little bit. And we've been attracting people back from the suburbs or when we first leased up Intro, I was amazed at how many people were boomeranging back because you could now work remote. And so it didn't make as much sense to live in San Francisco or Chicago or New York for the cost of living when you could do your job from here. And so we had like 40 or 50 renters, right? 20% of the building come back from one of those places. I was like, okay, this is a good sign, right? So to that end, I don't think that like it's just one neighborhood. I think what we have a challenge of is we have a lot of pockets that are disconnected from one another. And I think it's filling in sort of those nerve endings, if you will, so that, like you were saying, I'm not going to walk from here to there because it's like, well, what if it was more connected?
Yeah.
So I'd like to see, Gordon Square grow together with Ohio City and sort of fill in the blocks. And so you're seeing Lorraine and Detroit fill in on the east side. Like Little Italy is such a great opportunity. It's tied to University Circle, which is kind of, in my opinion, the economic engine for everything that Cleveland's thinking about moving forward. We talk about identity, healthcare, biomedical stuff, and new technology tied to that. But you then can easily see, a Little Italy, Shaker Square, Larchmere, southeast side, which the mayor's had a huge focus on. And you're now starting to see the economic impact from the Cleveland Clinic and University Circle leak into Huff and see a lot of really great stuff happening, north of like Chester and also south. Like I think we have to fill in the gaps, right? I don't necessarily think you have to, oh my gosh, there's a new neighborhood that's got to be the thing for the next decade. It's like, no, these are neighborhoods that already have good bones and good assets and need a little love and need a little ability to tie together so that it doesn't feel so disjointed.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. Cleveland on the up and up, baby. Look out.
I mean, like, everybody talks about Columbus, and Columbus is exploding with growth, but it's just not as charming in my opinion.
No, it's not.
And it's sprawling, right? Columbus has twice the
big circle.
Twice the population,
but
half the density because it's like incredible landmass. They just keep annexing and gobbling up, these places out in the farm country, and it's like, oh, Columbus is 1 million people. It's like, well, yeah, but it's like over hundreds of square miles, whereas we don't really have a lot of giant landmass left. It's like, okay, now we got to go repurpose old buildings and maybe get rid of some homes that have been empty and vacant and figure it out. And to the point, remove the red tape. Looking at the administration and council, right? That's another thing.
Yeah.
Like, I understand the dynamics of politics and how like it can be agenda driven, but our administration and our city council and our county have such an opportunity to try to align themselves for growth and for ease of operation and move at the speed of business and be a facilitator and not a hurdle or an impediment. And that is so key. I mean, I've worked in a lot of cities. I've worked across the country: Salt Lake City, Raleigh, North Carolina, Columbus, and these are places they're making it easier, right? Yeah. They're making it like, hey, you show up with a great plan and an idea, and generally on checks these bullets, we're going to streamline that for you.
Sure.
We need to do that. We need to have that mentality. And a lot of times, developers ask for public incentives and participation. Sometimes the incentive and participation of speed and ease has a value to it, a monetary value.
Let's not get in our way here and overcomplicate
this. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I love it. All right. Well, you definitely went over 5 minutes exactly.
Bang.
Bang, bang.
I mean,
Anything else you want to get off your chest?
I don't know, man.
Yeah?
I don't know.
Did you have fun?
Any other movie quotes? Any other, anything you're looking forward to?
What am I looking forward to? I'll tell you what.
We didn't talk about you.
Well, no, because you're the interviewer.
Well,
so I watched Hardball yesterday.
Okay.
For the first time. Remember that movie? G-Baby?
No.
You've never seen Hardball?
No.
My dude.
Wait, I don't know.
I love it when you call me Big Papa.
I mean, I know the song. I know Biggie.
So they play. It's
I think
Keanu
I have
Reeves.
Seen it. Yeah, I have seen it, but it's a long time ago, man.
Man, so I hadn't seen it in probably 15 years, and I watched it last night. It was on Bounce or some BS channel like that. I don't know why I even turned it on, but I cried like a baby.
Oh,
it's
man.
It's a very sad movie.
Guilty pleasures of some of these limited series and things.
Yeah.
We watch Suits, as I'm sure
love
tons
Suits.
and tons of people did when it's like they reran it and put it on the front page of Netflix. Like, oh, what's that? It's kind of like dumb humor, but it's also like, man, it gets you going, it gets you in the mood
Get you rocking
to do deals, right?
I'm gonna be like Harvey.
Yeah, man. I don't know. Sometimes it's nice to just sit on the couch and not think about anything and just kind of melt into a
The Guardians are gonna keep going.
Dude, our boy Josh Naylor seems to be on a tear.
Yeah, he is.
He's a big fan of Jaja too.
He is a big fan of Jaja.
He supports us, and I support him, and that man's got to eat.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you're basically keeping the Guardians.
I got to keep them fed, baby.
Yeah,
that's right. I was. I mean, again,
yeah.
I've launched my own thing, but
yes.
We're there. I do. I really think they have the opportunity. I mean, that's the thing. Sometimes it's like, I'll call it ignorant bliss, right? Like ignorance is bliss. It's like you don't know that you're not supposed to be in first place.
Sure.
You're a bunch of young guys, scrappy, just trying to go.
Just guys being
and
dudes out there playing ball.
This guy's being dudes. Just like bros being guys.
That's us. That's us.
That is us. So I'm excited for them. And I think it's a good time. I mean, the Cavs just ended the season, but hell of a season. And those last two games, without their top guys,
Donovan. Yeah.
I mean, without him, without Jared Allen, they showed some heart, some guts, and they kept him right into the very end. And
do you think JB's gone?
I don't want to talk about it.
All right. Well, I guess we've run out of things to talk about.
Oh, we could talk for hours.
We could literally talk for hours. I'm feeling like I have to pull the plug right now to end our conversation because I know you got to get to your meeting.
The mojo is good. Yeah, they'll be fine.
Yeah, good. All right. Dan Whalen, everyone. Where can we follow you? Where can we get more information on your new venture?
Yeah.
How can we stay up to date with this? And when can we expect ground to be broken?
I knew you were going to ask that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to move dirt quickly, right? But in our world, there's a lot of things to do, right? There's
let's just do it today.
Development's hard.
Let's just go out.
Right after this, I'm going to go get a shovel.
Let's go.
And I'm going to start
Are we
moving.
talking a year? Are we talking months?
No, probably. I mean, look, best case inside of a year.
Okay.
But definitely early mid 2025 is the goal.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of things to get sorted out. As I mentioned, it's hard to raise money right now from the debt side and get stuff capitalized. So hopefully, as interest rates start to settle down, which I think we are starting to see, there's more appetite to finance new deals. We're still in the end of a previous cycle, and stuff's got to shake out. But that said, trying to do something that I know can get built. Right, that's the hard part. Is sometimes again superlatives. You're trying to do this thing. You're trying to do amazing stuff, but once in a while, it's just let's focus on the thing that can get done.
Sure.
And then we can try to hit home runs on the next one. Hopefully within 12 months, we're moving some stuff there, and you're starting to see activity. You can find me. My website's placesdev.com. It's pretty bare bones right now.
Yeah.
But that's because I'm trying to do things a little incognito.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then
you don't have time to make sure your website's gorgeous.
Yeah. Well, it's I actually did, and this is a shout out to Kira.
Yeah.
Our friend Kira and 6 Element Marketing
Yes.
does amazing website work for anybody who's looking for some. She helps keep me looking good.
Yeah.
Did our website at Harbor Bay, which is baller.
It is awesome. It is
baller. I love working with her and her team. So this is not sponsored. But
you're probably going to get some money off your next website.
Well, I'll just definitely get a high five.
They're
good at high fives.
I love a good high five.
Yeah.
All right, Dan Whalen, ladies and gentlemen, check him out. Thank you so, dude. This was fun. I had a lot of fun.
This was great. I mean, We should do this more. I mean, not that
have our own show.
We should.
Not that anyone will listen to it.
All right, maybe they would.
Maybe they would.
I mean, if it's just like, let's just an hour a week, we have some guests, we riff it up. We keep the energy high. Let's
go, baby.
We get a topic or two. You're getting in the real estate game, so look out. This guy.
We'll see what happens. I'm enjoying it. I really am enjoying it. No, I love doing.
I'm gonna have to give you a hype,
See, I'm the hype man. When people try to hype me up, then I'm like, that's my job.
Even hype men need hype men.
That's true. I appreciate that. Yeah. Hype it up, baby. All right,
bro.
Thanks, bud. Appreciate you.